screen and start figuring this out. Okay, so new planning tool. Why you should pay attention to this presentation, despite all the things I just said about being guinea pigs. So one, this is the planning card system that is set to be used with Presto Suite. You know, this is where we are going to end up. There is no stopping that. We have paid the money to Naviga, who built this for us. This is what it's going to be. Two, this is the system that's going to replace Airtable. And we will be moving into it within the next couple of months or faster in cases. So, you know, anything you do in Airtable now will eventually be done in this system. When we do launch this, we're going to launch in phases. Burlington and Norwich, because you are in Presto Suite, you guys get to continue to be the New England guinea pigs with this system. And, you know, bottom line is this is where you guys are going to live and breathe. Why we are doing the new system, why we're not using Airtable anymore, what this accomplishes, what was the goal here. So one, it pulls the information directly from Presto. So you can keep track of things like the edit status in story is visible in the planning cards. The Presto ID pulls right over. Having that sort of interfacing between the systems is why, you know, planning cards were created, but planning cards just didn't have the power to do the planning when they set up the planners. So this was the answer to that problem. One of the other problems this was meant to answer is we have a lot of copy pasting going on in the network, like so much. As you guys know, you're copying and pasting things into Airtable all the time. Then the DOD takes what you copy and pasted into Teams and they copy and paste it into a spreadsheet. And all of that copy and pasting is just not the best use of anybody's time. So this system, because it is both the system that we use, the newsrooms use, the DOT uses, and the design center will use, really helps with the copy and pasting concerns that we've all had. Second thing, third thing that this was meant to do was it is designed to show you everything that is happening in the whole network and for the whole network to be able to see. So for example, in a breaking news situation like we just had in the Cape, USA Today would be able to very easily see what is everything that Hyannis is doing. That was something that they really wanted to be able to account for. One of the other things it does that the old planning cards couldn't do is it allows for you to track the stories in two separate ways. So with one planning card for one story, it became very hard, and some editors pointed it out. Will Richmond was one of them, that you couldn't both track when is the story being filed and when am I using the story. So this allows to separate that. There is one place that is to track when stories are coming in, and then there's another place that is meant to be tracking all of the assignments. It also has a better tool for building the print budgets. And it makes all of the regions reasonably alike. Right now, all of the different planning desks operate very differently because we all had to come up with our own solution for what the planning cards didn't do. What that means is it's very hard to take best practices from one region to another region. And also, if we ever needed to help one of the other regions, it's basically not possible for us to do that because we don't know their systems. That is not the way they want the company to work. So this system is meant to help with that as well. So before I flip over into it, a couple of things I just want everybody to know. So one is the system is meant to be really customizable. So it's built entirely on something on filters. And then you're going to have to set them up yourself. But once you have them set up, you can save them. So there is this bit of an upfront work on how to make it work for you, which I think a lot of you will actually really like because I've seen the spreadsheets you create and you guys love a system that you can build to customize for yourself. But that is kind of the backbone of how this works. There's two distinct views. One is the planning view and one is the assignment view. Planning view is to keep track of when are things being filed, and the assignment view is to keep track of what are the actions that you are planning for that story. When is it going in print? When is it going online, on social, all of that. And the other thing to just say
is that again? Just say it again because it went by so fast.
Okay, so when you are in the planning view, keeping track of when the reporters are filing their information. So when are the stories going to come to you? The assignments are where you keep track of the actions. When is this going in print? When is it going online? When is it going on social, a newsletter, etc. That's kind of the distinguishing thing between those two spaces. And you make assignment cards, I guess, off of the planning cards, which becomes the bridge between them, which will make so much more sense when I show it to you versus me saying that out loud. So the assignment cards are the bridge between the two views. And then as always, when we really set up the workflow on this, it's not a surprise at this point. If you have a lot of dot help, it looks very different than the papers who don't have a lot of dot help, because the assignments are essentially the communications about who is going to do what. So if the dot isn't who's going to do what, then where that assignment goes looks a little different. Okay, so with all that being said, let's go look at the tool that I should have opened from scratch, which I can do actually. So when you come into Okta, you've got the Presto Suite planning. I'm pretty sure we've confirmed that all of you have it at this point. That is built by Naviga for us. That is the tool. When I take my filters off, this is what you'll see when you first open it. This is every planning card for every story that is in the network right now. To make it manageable to see this, the first thing you're going to do from this planning view is set up filters. The filters that you guys as planners are going to want are the filters that will help you see the content that you're working with, your papers. So the way that works is if, for example, I wanted the Cape Cod Times, it is filtered. Actually, Tiffany, is the Cape Cod Times in here yet? Or did Kate fix that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll do it. You search for, you set it up searching by the name, like the site name, not the name of your paper. So Hyannis, there's a free text option, not that one. You want the channel option. These are all channels. And this shows me now I'm only looking at the Cape Cod Times stories. What you're going to want to do is the first thing you do when you get in here is create a filter for each of your sites. So you've set it up, channel, Hyannis, save new filter. I'm going to call it Cape Cod Times. That's what I actually refer to it as. And if I wanted it to appear in this bar up here, you just hit the star to save that filter. And that will show you. So now when I come here, I could go to Cape Cod, or I can easily toggle to Burlington. So you'll want one of these for each of your papers. What you're looking at here is the story, and it's pulling the location it's showing up in here is based on what is the date that story is set to in Presto, where the reporter can set that date in. So you want them to always be setting that date to the day that they are intending to file it. You can drag and drop in here, but it is deceptive and not something you ever actually want to be doing, because the master of it is what is that date in Presto. So if you go in and you rearrange in here, and then the reporter goes into that file, makes an update and save, it is the card here will snap back to that original date. There is no way to save your work because we want Presto to be the master of this. So any changes to these dates, you need to have the reporter making in the Presto file. The color coding that you see here. Blue means a story is in progress, being created. Green means a story is published online. These are live stories. and red means that the story is embargoed. So you can really quickly see kind of where you're at with that. If I go to Burlington, because their editors are using this function, what you'll also get here is you can see what the editing status that has been saved in the story is. So it's creating, then we know that, it's still in the reporter's hands. If it's edit done, that means it's gone through the 2 reads from an editor. They're ready to sign off on it. So you can really quickly see that at a glance. The other information you can quickly see at a glance, this is the headline that's coming through on the story. If they haven't made a headline on the package, you don't get a headline here. If it's metered or premium, that's showing up here. The time that's set to the story and the slug are all information that you can just quickly see when you're in this field. I'm next going to show you, so just to be clear, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to show you the assignments. I'm going to use I'm going to use Des Moines because they've been using the tool, the planning director there has been using the tool a tiny bit. And then I'm going to go back and show you how you get from here to there, but I want to give you a sense of where we're trying to get to before I fill in the details. So if you go to the assignment view, here we're looking at Des Moines assignments. I'll take these off. Just anything that Des Moines has done. Going back. This. So based on those planning cards, in each of those planning cards, assignments have been made, which brings you over to here. These are the actions that either the dot, and you can see that they're assigned to the dot here, are taking. They're the print plans of what day will this story run in print, when will it go on Facebook, when will it go on social. So this is every action that's associated with the story. And then from there, you can filter it to see other things. You have to use this weird code, Nanat. I don't know, guys. I really can't explain Nanat. I just know it's important. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. I don't think it's a real word, so I think I can create the pronunciation of it. I'm calling it Nanat. But these are how you get distinctive budgets. So if I wanted to look just at the print budget, I would do Des Moines print. In terms of setting it up so that this will make sense for you in the future, you would save this as a filter, Des Moines print. And once you've done this, you probably don't ever really have to do this again. And if I wanted it to show up on this bar, it's another one of those situations. I have to hit edit to be able to do that. You hit the little star, save. Now I can very quickly see the print.
I know that you can't see it, but Cassandra has her hand raised.
Oh, I can't see that at all. You guys are just going to have to shout at me. Cassandra, what's the question?
Sorry. I was just going to ask if you could like zoom your browser in or like, you know what I mean? Like, can you change the, maybe a little bit more? Okay, that's perfect. Now I can actually see what you're doing. Sorry.
Very good.
Thank you for asking. So you'll make these filters here to see things like Des Moines print. Or if you wanted to just look at your social schedule, you would do that Nanat Facebook. Save that as a filter. Or if you wanted to figure out to save when you're going online, I would do the Des Moines, your paper, and I would do all the different boost posts because though in the new system, instead of pinning, you boost. That will show you when everything is going online. And that's how you'll keep track of those different types of schedules. Does that sort of make sense? Each one of these filters becomes like one of the different views we've created for you in Airtable. Since nobody is saying it doesn't make sense, I'm going to assume it does.
So like
Makes
the
sense.
views that we would use would be like Facebook, Twitter, boosting, Instagram.
Potentially, yeah. And you would just see, like, you would be able to go here, have your paper, the assignment, and be able to see, like, if let's see how Des Moines is doing on their Instagram planning. They're not. They're not doing well on their Instagram planning, guys. But if they were doing the Instagram planning, you'd be able to just quickly see, oh, we have a post scheduled for every day for Instagram. We're looking great.
So is there like a tag that goes in the actual Presto file that knows when we type in the Instagram to pull that story up? Like, how does the story end up in this view when we use that filter?
Great. Let's go. The perfect segue. Now that you see where it's
Oh,
going, we're
that's
going to go backwards to show you how you get there. So if we go back to the planning view, if I was going to mess around with the Cape Cod Times stories, since Cassandra, you're not using this, I think it will be fine for me to do so. When you come in here, you can click open the story, and here it's giving you some basic information of what is being pulled from the Presto file. So you've got the name, you've got the status, your Presto ID, your link to edit. If it was published, you'd have the URL, everything you need from print, the slug, etc. To make assignments that puts it in that other view, you're going to come in off of here, click the universal pencil of I'm going to edit something and do something here. When you come in here, you are going to be the person that adds the assignments to tell it to show up in that other view. So the types of assignments we have for you to add: print, obviously, because we're going to be using this to set up our print budgets eventually. You've got newsroom publish, which is if the story a dot is not going to optimize or publish themselves. Tier 3s and tier 4s will use this more. Dot publish essentially means dot optimize. This is where you're setting up the stories that you want them to look at. Subscriber, this is a subscriber only story. I'm not entirely sure why this is in here because it's pulling premium and metered. I think they meant to take this out and forgot. You've got the different types of boosts: lead boost, significant boost, backfill, minor boost. You will use these in combination to keep track of when are things going online. The next, like, what day are they going online? Push alerts, newsletter, Instagram, Facebook, other social. For example, Cape Cod Times boldly has a TikTok. If you wanted to track the TikTok here, you will use other social for that. So to make any of these cards, we'll say that I'm going to do the a lead boost of this is going to be the most important story going on my website one day. I'm going to randomly pick a date. This is going to go up on Friday. Set that on the calendar. I'm going to set the post time to 5 a.m. That's when I'm putting it up. When you come down here, so there's this add assignee button. If it is something that you want the dot to do, you can assign it to the New England dot. If it is something that you are going to do yourself, for example, most boosts are the embargoes that are set by the planners, you can assign it to yourself so that everybody knows that you're going to do it. We will also be able to, and eventually everybody in the network will be in here, but right now I just had our dots specially put in for us. You do have the option of assigning it to a specific dot if you know that they are going to be the person who does it for you. For the most part, Caitlin should be the one who is assigning it to somebody specific, but say it's a project that you know you are working with Claire on, or it's a video that you know is going to go to Waldy, you could add their name to it. So, the other thing to draw your attention to is the status of the assignment. So when you first get a story coming in and you first get the story card, what I think will happen when people start working with it is you're going to probably make two types of cards off the bat. You will make a boost card for it so you can start keeping track of when it's going to go online, and you will make a print card for it so you can start keeping track of when it's going to go in print. That's how you'll get your 7 to 10 day planning of you're loosely looking at what are the cards that people have created, and then you'll translate it into that. Those will be, and those cards that you're creating off the bat are going to be your draft plans. However, when it gets to day of and you start knowing for sure what you're going to do, the way you will tell the dot that you are sending it over to them, that this is what it's going to be, is you will move that plan from draft to plan set, which will turn the card purple. Plan set means that like it is all good to go. You'll also see the two statuses that the dot will use of dot in progress, which means that one of the dots has claimed it and they're working on it, or dot done, which means they finished it. Part of the workflow will be for Caitlin has long talked about how a reject button would be helpful for some of our plans for when they are not doing something that we put forward. The best example of that is, again, the Kate breaking news situation, where there had been a plan for the day and then a new plan evolved based on the news, and certain stories weren't getting published. Like we just couldn't, they weren't going on Facebook at those times. And Cassandra, I saw you in the chats, like trying to get that information so you could go back and re-socialize them. Instead of having that conversation, they'll just put it back to draft. Like you'll have set it to plan set, they'll put it back to draft, and we will still send each other nice notes in teams and act like respectful human beings about it. But it's a way to keep track of what stories had to go back to the drawing board for whatever reason.
Yeah,
So,
just that it was like, it was canceled, like
yes.
for that specific maybe social posting time or
Yes. So if we
for
run
that
into those,
pinning.
if we run into those situations, this gives us a better way to communicate that with each other. So you would set this, say that this one was, say this one's still a draft. I would do this. Since this one is a boost, it will probably go to me. You add the assignment to it. You can see all the assignments will start piling up under the card. To make a print assignment, you'd come here, you would choose print. You'll set print assignments to full days because the time does not matter on those. You can add a publication. So for example, maybe I want this story to go to Hyannis and Portsmouth. Unlikely, but we'll just say for purposes of showing you that this is possible. What is far more likely is that this story is going to Portsmouth and Dover, or Milford and Framingham, which is when you'd really want to be able to add that here. You will need to select the design center. We obviously send our things to New England. You select the print section. I'm going to send this to 1A. So I'm hoping you all, oh, can I move you? There we go. These different print sections were the subject of much debate. What they ended up being tied to is what are the distinct budgets that get sent to the design center, because that was important in how the files will later be exported. So you've got 1A, business, features, life, news, non-daily, opinion, special sections, sports, Sunday plus. We will not be adding print sections like 3A or 2A. Any like inside fronts won't be reflected on it. What you'll have is you'll have 1A, and for add print position, those things would all be classified as inside going forward. This will be presented to the editors by not you. But what you do have is the option of, you will select your print placement from here of this is the centerpiece, the down page, etc. So I'm going to say this is the centerpiece, and I would add that assignment as well. And you can just keep going with any story until you've added all of those assignments that you want to appear over there. When you save changes, this is all here. Anybody can come in and see what assignments are associated with a specific story if they wanted to see what the plan is being built off of the one thing. Or when you go over to the planning, when you go back over to the assignment view, if I was not in Des Moines, if I went to Hyannis, I can now see the cards that I made over here. In this view, if you drag and drop, that does mean something and it will stick. at such time when I decided that these were not like drafts anymore, I would go in, click the button to re-edit them, save them as plan set, save changes, and I would be done with them. Basically, the way this will work is with our standard budgets, you know, at 4 o'clock for the dot, everything needs that they're doing the next day needs to be set to plan set. And instead of sending them a budget in the channel, we'll notify them everything's plan set, you're good to go in and start working on it.
Okay, so you can create assignments and that doesn't automatically send it to them. It's only until you hit plan set that it tells them it's okay to work on it.
So anybody can see it at any point in time. So they can see what you're thinking. You can't like block them out of your space. But the
Yeah.
understanding is going to be that until you put it as plan set, they can't treat it like it's good to go.
Okay,
So they could go.
so they
look
won't
at it.
start like optimizing an assignment until it turns purple.
Yes, unless you like
Right.
talk to them in a chat and you had a reason that you wanted them to go in earlier than that.
Okay,
But that is what will signify that it's good to go for the dot. And it will give them a way also to watch in real time. So if you have content ready early before your budget that you're ready to move to plan set, they can go in and look at that instead of having, you know, the like, do I notify them that this is ready
Yeah.
early or do I wait till the budget time? This would give them the ability to be able to do that. Okay, so at this point, because I've been staring at myself and my screen for quite a few seconds, like 30 minutes now, I'm going to quickly come off screen. Do you guys have any questions at this point in time that I could start diving into? Because that does give you kind of, with the exception of the print piece of this, which I'm going to come back to another day because they were just finalizing pieces of it last night and I'm really not prepared to speak to it. On the digital piece of this, is this making sense? Sandy?
One of the questions that I have is right now when I embargo things and I send it to Dot and I say, please optimize, but it's a tier 3, tier 4, I get the love that's there when there's love to be had.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to work? Is the same thing going to happen where it may or may not be optimized and it'll still unembargo and publish in the morning, regardless of whether the Dot touches it?
So the new system, while it gives the dot more time where they're not copying and pasting, it does not guarantee that they're going to get to your things. There are 2 things that I am going to show you that you could potentially do. So one is if you wanted to, you could have it be clear that like you could ask them to set it back to draft so that you know that they didn't do it. I don't know, we would have to test that workflow to see if they actually have time for it. The only other tool you have to communicate is you do have the option to add priority. And the only priority you can add is high priority. In a case like yours, Sandy, you get like 1 high priority story a day, if even. And even then, when it gets to the dot, they will rank it against the other high priority things. What did the Cape say was high priority? What did Projo say was high priority? But you could notify them that if they're only going to do one thing, this one is the thing to do.
Okay.
By adding that as part of your assignment. Does that help at all? It does not solve the problem. It just goes over what communication we have around it now.
Right. It doesn't really solve the problem or the workflow that because what I've done is I've developed a pleased optimized and then a please place. And I think that the boosting, it seems like whether, you know, if I said high boost or whatever, that's apparently gonna make it place high on the site and then the significant will go below that. And just kind of wanting to make sure that the system that I have in place is replicated, because I get that we don't get a lot of love. Not
Mike,
that they don't love us, they just don't have time.
Mike, since you have the most similar situation, is there anything that you want to say about the boosting and how that works or anything?
I don't know if it's directly related to what Sandy just said, but just in terms of what you were showing. So like this is just creating plans. Like I'm planning to do lead boost, but on the
Mhm.
training you're going to get next week, you'll actually see how you, the planner, put something as lead boost and significant. So like what Katie just showed you doesn't make it to lead, of course, but
Correct.
in the training you'll find out how to make it lead. And yeah. There was maybe one other thing I was going to say, but I forgot. If I think of it, I'll come up with it.
Okay.
Perfect. All right, are there
Katie?
other, yes.
I noticed there were some things where you didn't add an assignee and back a screen, it had a red triangle.
Yeah.
Are there some things that if you don't assign an assignee, it won't get done?
Good question. Okay, so the way this is going to work, for print, you don't need an assignee attached to it. However, when it's in the morning, when the dot is trying to decide what they are going to do, their filters are going to be set up, not by channel or something like that. Their filters are going to be to see what is assigned to them, to the New England dot. So it is really essential that if you are working with the dot, that you have made the assignment to them. And if you don't do that, you get the little red icon here of this isn't assigned to anybody. And if you don't make the assignment, you significantly reduce the chances of them seeing it. Does that answer your question, Phil?
Yes. And is that only for like the dot is really reliant on having something assigned to them?
Yes, because
Okay.
you know,
Less so print.
yes, because because they're gonna live and die on filters. They have to set up filters to not see everything in the network. So their filter, because they work with so many publications, will not be based on publications. It will be on what's assigned to them. So if you miss that assignment, they won't see it. They will not know to do it because it won't show up in front of them. So yeah, that is an absolutely essential step.
I remember what I was going to say real quick about back to the boosting is that it's very quick and easy, and the planners actually just do it themselves. Yeah, as I said, you'll learn next week, so you don't have to worry about, oh, I got to ask the dot to try to pin this stuff, and are they going to pin it? Do they have time? The planners themselves can just do the boosting really quickly, so that will be one less thing for dot to have to worry about. Maybe they will have more time to do other stuff like optimize.
Yeah. Are there other questions now that you've seen kind of an overview of it?
Is there like a time limit that you can go back to? So like, let's say I wanted to reshare a story from a month ago. I would just like find the Presto file and I would be able to add assignments to it to Facebook, put it on Facebook and to like boost it.
So once the system is turned on, so we will not have things in here from a year ago when the system doesn't exist, but once it's turned on, that is the beginning of it, and everything will always live there. So you will be able to go way far back and search for it. The other thing that you can do, though, if you don't want to have to scroll back months, weeks, however long that is there is this helpful search over here. So this search and this search are different. The search you want, if you're actually looking for a specific story, is what has been known as the caret search now. So if you come here, if you search by Presto ID, and I don't have a Presto ID ready to search for, that will pull up the story here. And when you click on it, you would be able to see all the assignments if there were, you'd be able to see the card or the assignments that are associated with that story. I'd probably search for it in the planning view because I think that will actually be easier. And that you'll get the card. And when you get that card, you can just keep adding more assignments off of it. There's no limit that I am aware of at this point in time to the number of assignments that can be on the card. One of the other things you can do is you could come here if there was a USA Today story that you wanted, you could pull up that card. We'll say, we'll use this Ohio story. Well, Cincinnati, we'll go bold. If I knew that I wanted this for the Cape Cod time, I could add an assignment to it. Say I'm going to use this as my Facebook post later tonight. Military time, guys, you'll have to get a little, do a little math. I would add Hyannis as the publication, saying that I'm doing it for the Cape, and you would just take Cincinnati off as the publication. And since we're saying that this is a Facebook post and it's for the Cape, then we know the New England Dot is going to do it. Add them as the assignee and send that. We would make this assignment. And now this is in your channel as well. So you could get anything in the network and use that as part of your planning if you wanted to by searching here and grabbing the Presto ID for it. We'll also probably get to the point where eventually like Hadley stories will be assignments that we have put in all of your feeds so that you just know where it is and what you're doing. We'll make assignments off of those so that they're everywhere. The Dot will do things like the regional Facebook posts that way, and that they will probably make an assignment card for them and have them in the system where everybody can see them and what they're going to do. That answer your question, Cassandra?
Yes, it does.
Great.
Well, really quick. So like you were creating an assignment and then you like remove them. That doesn't like remove them from the entire story, just from that assignment, right?
Just from that assignment. Yes.
Okay, because it just, I feel like that would make me nervous. Like if I was taking USET story for a Facebook post and I remove USET off of it, I want to make sure that I'm not like messing it up for everyone.
That would be big bad. That would be big. And the key to that is when you are in the card as a whole, if I remove Cincinnati here, that would be big bad.
Okay.
Managing it only when you are in the assignment that you are creating is the goal.
Okay.
Can you show us how you would repin something? So if we do we do that in New Presto where we bring back a story that we published on Monday over the weekend and we want to put it back and boost it again? How do we do that?
Yes, we do. So that would be another situation where it's essentially that concept of it's as many assignments as you want. So I've already put one boost assignment on this story, but I can go back in and add another assignment and set up another boost for on the weekend. I want it to be just a significant boost, we'll say. I want to do that on Saturday. I want it to go up at 5 a.m., except I wouldn't actually do that. We'll say I'm putting it up at 6:30 on Saturday. I'm going to assign that one to the New England Dot. We will go over this in the training for it, but boosts can be scheduled before a story is published. After the story is published, they have to be done in real time. In the same way that we have to pin it manually, you have to do the boost manually after it's been published. So while I assigned the first one to me, I don't work on Saturday. So the second one needs to be assigned to the Dot, who's the person that's actually going to go in and redo that boost. So I would add the assignment. If I'm confident as all heck that that is what I'm going to do on Saturday, I would save that as plan set. Add the assignment. And now you've got 2 different boosts in there to be done. So you know when you're going to reshare it.
Okay. Thank
That
you.
work? Other questions?
Will our editorial colleagues like be able to go into this to see like, oh, they're planning this for Facebook, they want this in print, and yet they won't be able to go in and change things? Will it be they'd be kind of locked out of making changes to our plans?
They are not locked out. We work on an honor system.
There you go. All right.
You know, they're going to have the same settings as everybody else. There's not like a way to give one person one set of settings and the planners another set of settings.
Okay.
So they could meddle with it, we're gonna hope that they show us all the respect that they don't, or at least they're like communicative about it, so
They'll
you know.
communicate first, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
None of your editorial colleagues have seen this yet. So that, you know, their part of it is what we ideally want is the reporters are not really in here at all. They're just in there, they're
Okay.
just in Presto, make their planning card, setting the date. And we want editorial to be able to use this to keep track of the stories and what they've edited. So, for example, at the Cape, I'm just gonna keep picking on the Cape today. I'm sorry, Cassandra. I just feel really like I just know what's happening in that newsroom right now after the week they've had. You know, they might want to have the main screen of this opened all day so they can keep track of where things are in the editing process. You know, they're actually making the changes in Presto, but it's a very quickly way for them to visually see like, oh, we're in the clear, or oh, we have a lot of stories that are not edit done yet and somebody needs to go fix those. So they're watching here to keep track of that. And then in the assignments, they're going to be, there's some of those filters that they're going to want to see too. They will probably still want to know what's going on in print. So there's some assignments that they can be looking at so that they know what's happening in newsrooms. So in your tier 1 and tier 2 newsrooms where the dots are doing a lot for you, they are mostly looking at it to see what is happening, with the exception that some things will be set instead of to dot optimize, will be set to newsroom. Those are the stories that we know the dot isn't going to look at and that the newsroom is going to publish. Caitlin did a tour with many of those newsrooms earlier this year saying the dot's going to keep doing this for you. The dot, for example, is no longer going to be doing opinion content for you. That opinion content, you want to set it to newsroom so that they know that it's their job to do. For the Norwiches and the Metro West of the world, the editors are going to be in there looking for what it is they need to do. So you will be making more assignments to them, and there will be more newsroom things, and that they will need to check off that they have done it. So they will have almost a more dot-like relationship with the tool, and that there are things that those editors are going to need to know to do with it that maybe the ones that have more dot help don't need to know, though they probably will, because most people want to know everything.
Bill Maddox has his hand raised.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, just a quick question, getting back to the beginning. In order to create a planning card, do you have to set a date?
You do. And it like in the system in New Presto won't let you create, like you can't have a story without a planning card. What will be challenging for Wicked Local, just to give you guys the heads up right now on this, is that the channel is Wicked Local. Just like the website is Wicked Local. You will not, for print, we will have a way where you can plan for the specific print publications because those need to come out and obviously that needs to happen. But for digital, you will only be able to plan for all of Wicked Local. Any other questions, Bill?
You might be getting this eventually. Is there a date that Norwich and Burlington are starting to do this? Is this set date? Or
Well,
should I start sweating?
you should. You should
just kidding.
definitely start sweating. No, you should. We are probably going to make you two, Nick, and you two will probably be the guinea pigs for the whole company. And we have been talking about as early as next week, but I think I'm going to push it out one more week based on where we were today, because I want a little more time to make sure that you guys are really prepared for it. But like probably 2 weeks out from now. For the rest of you, it's going to be just about the same time as you move into New Presto, so that we're ripping the Band-Aid off all at once. So that's October 11th, 12th, one of those 2 days. I forget which one.
And maybe the week before Nick and I launch, maybe we are starting to create assignments, practice. We're, so on day one, there's things in there. We're ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And we'll probably, I think that for everybody to go into it, it's probably going to be like, because there is so much that needs to be set up that is personal to you. In most cases, we've done like just these broad trainings, like what we're doing right now. I think everybody's going to need a personal training or a personal check-in to make sure that what they have set up makes sense and is aligned. I think if we don't check on those with like a meeting and screen share, there is too much possibility for somebody to be looking at one thing and thinking it's that one thing while the other person who needs to see it is not looking at the same thing. So.
Sounds good.
All right, are there other questions, or do we want to take, I do want to take the last 10 minutes to have Tiffany run down the deadline email that you all got yesterday from me. Okay, we'll put the planning guides to bed. If there's anything that you specifically want to talk about more, that you want more training on besides the print component, shoot me a message on Teams and I'll figure out how to make a better training around that. And if you have any thoughts about this training and the order we did it in and what we went over, I would also very much like those, because we still have to come up with what the formalized training is going to be for everybody in the network. So if you have any thoughts on that, super helpful. All right, Tiffany, take it away.
You're on mute.
Sorry. So you all got Katie's email about the deadline changes. And I've gotten some questions about these, and there were some things in the PDFs that were attachments that I wanted to highlight. So for those of you with deadline changes, I encourage you to open up the spreadsheet, see when those deadline changes are for your booking notes. Some of them are moving to 5 p.m. the day before. So make sure you see those and the updated content deadlines. Those deadlines in that sheet are for news. And then sports for everyone. Your booking note deadlines are changing. So they want booking notes in for the tier 2, 3, and 4 papers. They want booking notes in by 10 a.m. for the papers that typeset between 2 and 6:30 p.m. And if you're not sure when you typeset, it's in your wikis, and I can help you find that. Those typesetting before 2 p.m., you have to send your sports budget the evening before by 5 p.m. The sports content deadline moves to noon. So for some papers, that's a pretty big change. So just be aware of those. And then the other pieces that I pulled out from this that were highlighted, some of these are things we have been doing or should have been doing, and they're just reminders and they're being reinforced. Content deadlines must be met. If the stories are not delivered on time, the center will fill with wire. The daily centerpieces, including the story headline and images with accurate captions, must be delivered to the center no later than the time of your booking note. So they want those CPs in earlier than the rest of your content. For Sunday CPs, and I'll put some of this in a note and send it to everybody so you have it, but it's also like just the Cliff Notes version, but it is also in that PDF. The Sunday CPs, there are some differences in the deadlines. They at least need the art by the end of day Tuesday. If you want an illustration or a graphic, if the story has all the art ready, it should be delivered by end of day Wednesday. This is something we're doing now, but we usually send stories to print right when we send the booking note. This gives you a little more wiggle room, but they are reiterating that they want those preliminary story shells for content sent to Q 1 hour after the budgets are filed. So even if the story's not ready yet, send those, make sure you're sending all that stuff to Q. This is an update for something that we just reiterated a few weeks ago, but don't send wire content from Presto to Q. So like if your sites have loaded AP content in, if a newsroom has localized wire content, just tell your wire selector. So if you are going to send like a localized wire story, just note on the booking note, like this is an AP story, so that they know not to pull the story that it's related to and you don't run into a dupe.
And just to be really clear, a localized wire story is something they went into and added reporting to. It is not just a
Yeah.
local wire story. They have to have added context to it.
Yes. Also, newsrooms should send stories to print as soon as they publish digitally to ensure flow throughout the day. If a story is not complete yet, it should be sent to Q so designers can work with a placeholder file. All stories for print must, and they put this in all caps, so you know it's important, must include the R for P tag when the story is done. So it needs to be resent R for P when the story's done. There were a few other things in there, and I think I actually want to talk to Katie about them first to see how we want to handle that. So I won't tell you all yet. But if anybody has any questions about any of this, just let us know.
One other thing I want to add, because I'm not actually sure if it's a change or not, but I want to make sure that everybody knows it. If you are looking for changes, you put in your budget, you want to change it. They still are allowing the 1A change. It has to be a 1A story, and they're only allowing changes up until 1 hour before content deadline. So if your content deadline is 3 o'clock, then we can only approve changes until 2 p.m. After 2 p.m., I cannot approve changes. Just to make that clear.
Yes. Cool. Does anybody have any immediate questions?
With the sports budget now due, for me, probably for most people, at 10 a.m., I assume Nick's regional New England sports budget timing may not be changing, but I remember Aaron totally previously, on your sports budget that goes 10 a.m., you could just put TK from regional budget or to come or something. Is that sound right?
So
We're gonna have to assess.
yeah, there are some other wire things that they put in these documents about sports, and I've already flagged to Katie that we need to talk about the whole process. So changes to come. And this is not effective. This is effective October 3rd.
Yeah, we
So-
have a little bit of time, but there's a few things I need to clarify.
Sounds good. TBD.
But good thought. I already flagged it to her this morning. So right on top. Anyone else? Okay. If you think of anything, just let us know. And I'm going to stop this recording now.
Well, thank you guys all